Hello everybody, welcome back to Access Blockbusters, and welcome to a quick non-spoiler reaction to the second to last episode of the HBO series Dune Prophecy. This is going to be non-spoiler, but if you're looking for a more in-depth spoiler discussion on Dune Prophecy Episode 5, then make sure to stay tuned on the channel, subscribe to the Access Blockbusters YouTube channel, as we are posting our review of Episode 5, our spoiler discussion later on in the week, as well as some other topics I'm sure we will dive into in the episode of the Access Blockbusters pod. So make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for all of that. But this is going to be non-spoiler and just a quick, couple minutes me talking about what I thought about the episode right after I've seen it. So I've been a little bit frustrated with this show. I've described this in previous immediate reactions and previous spoiler discussions that the first two episodes I think gave a lot of promise, and I think were really solid first two episodes of an 8-episode show. But then episodes 3 and 4 felt like an amalgamation of episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6, and now we're all of a sudden gearing up towards episodes 7 and 8 for a finale, when in reality, this show is only 6 episodes long. This show has a lot of ground to cover, and the past two episodes have been choppy, have been messy, they've been setting up things and then leaving me a little bit confused, and yes, I've made some false claims, not because I was trying to spread misinformation, but just because I was confused about a couple things and made some assertions that I don't think are true anymore, which we'll talk more about in the spoiler discussion. So I will say, but Episode 5. Episode 5 gives us some clarity, which I think it has to, because it's the second to last episode. If Episode 5 was just as vague and ambiguous as the last couple episodes, I think it would have spelled some disastrous results for Episode 6, unless it was like a 3-hour episode. And even in that case, it would have still been a little bit, I don't know, it would have been choppy. But I think Episode 5 gives us some clarity. I still think it's frustrating that they want to withhold some information from us that I think should be revealed at this point. But I think this episode is starting to give us an understanding, or at least hint towards what's going on. I feel like what this show wants to do, though, is let all the secrets come out in Episode 6, and I don't think that's the best thing either. I think there are a couple things that jump out at me in Episode 5 that I go, okay, I think that's something to grasp at. But really, this show continues to be a frustrating mixed bag of, this is all really interesting. This individual storyline is interesting, but I wish they gave it more time. There's one particular storyline in this episode that was really given nothing at all. And there was one scene that had these two characters interacting, and I was like, this should have been the show. This should have been the show all along, and yet they've only focused on them for minutes at a time, and it's been really frustrating. Meanwhile, all the different storylines are not really coalescing at this point. And I'm just kind of curious to see what's going to happen in Episode 6. Again, like I said in the last episode, spoiler discussion, immediate reaction, is that, this show does not leave you wanting more at the end of each episode because you're so excited to see the next episode, but rather it leaves you wanting more because you're like, how in the world are you going to be able to pull this off? And that's really the mindset that I have entering Episode 6. I said this in, as I was watching the show, I was thinking about this. I don't think this is nearly as bland or boring or uninteresting as the first season of The Rings of Power, for example. I think this first season rather has a lot of room to grow from, and I think it can definitely make those improvements if they are able to get a season 2. But in a vacuum, just on its own for season 1, I've been pretty disappointed just in terms of the pacing. I think every individual aspect of the show has been interesting on its own, and I would have liked to have seen a couple of them fleshed out a lot more to focus on them as the A and B storylines, while the other ones could have maybe taken a backseat or, been fleshed out over a longer period of time. But as it stands, we're heading towards the final episode. We kind of know what's going on towards the end, but not really. I mean, there's sort of a move towards, some power grabbing and some struggles and characters, consolidating their allegiances. But even then, it's still very unclear what's going to happen at the end of the show. So we'll see. I'm curious, but still not super on board all the way, super invested in the show. But we'll have to see what happens in Episode 6. Guys, let me know in the comments down below what you thought about Episode 5 of Dune Prophecy. Stay tuned to the Access Blockbusters YouTube channel for the full spoiler discussion for the podcast coming out later this week, and I will see you guys in the next one.